Good evening, everyone. I'd like to open the public hearing for, where are we, April 13th, 2023. And we are going to go a bit out of order if we have Mr. Roy here this evening. Or anyone for (180) North Street. Yeah, we do have Mr. Roy here. So let me just read the public hearing notice. A public hearing will be held on Thursday, April 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. on the petition of Carmine Petrosino, 15 Shasta Drive, North Reading, MA, on an appeal of the decision of the building commissioner according to section 200-7 of the North Reading zoning bylaws for the construction of a single family home in a RA/HB residential A highway business district at 180 North Street, North Reading, MA, map 27, parcel 38. And as you can see, we are by the governor's order, still meeting by Zoom. Mr. Roy.
Yes,
would you
thank you.
like to give us a little intro on what you were hoping to do at 180 North Street?
Absolutely. Luke Roy, LJR Engineering, on behalf of the applicant, Carmen Petrosino. Madam Chair, if I may share my screen.
Yes, please. Kathy, if you will let Luke.
Yep. Oh, shoot.
Well, that's nice.
Go ahead, Luke. I think you can just do it.
So, can everyone see that?
Yes.
So this is the area map that we prepared for the request that we're discussing tonight. This is the subject parcel, 180 North Street, outlined here. You can see on the map Route 28 Main Street off to the left side, the west, North Street, left to right. And then Burridge Way is a side street off of North Street, residential development here. We've labeled some of the residential uses just surrounding the property here. And on the site itself, which is outlined, there's an existing single family dwelling identified. This is from the town GIS mapping. And then we've also identified a wetland resource area that crosses through the property in proximity to the site. And you can clearly see on this map the zoning district, the red being the highway business zone, and this crosses through the subject property, and then with the lighter tan or yellow color is a residence A zone to the east side of the map. We looked at the deeds for this property, 180 North Street, and went back a ways. And based on our review, it appears that the site, the land that comprises this property, goes back at least to 1925 as far as not being changed or divided as far as the deed description goes. And additionally, in looking at the zoning bylaw, it appears that the zoning district boundaries, like the one we see here, as far as the dates listed in the bylaw, it appears that it came in around 1973. When the map, at least that's referenced in the zoning bylaw, was adopted. So I'm just going to switch to our site plan that we prepared. So this is the site plan for the property that we prepared. This is actually with North Street at the bottom of the sheet. So it's kind of the reverse to the area map that we were just looking at, and with North being to the bottom. So this is the property boundary. There's the existing dwelling, and then there's a couple of accessory structures that are on the property. You can see the wetland area that I had identified on the area map. That's on here. And so what the applicant is proposing is to subdivide the property and to create a conforming residential lot, a lot to be developed with a proposed single-family dwelling. You can see the footprint that we're proposing here, and that dwelling will straddle the zone line such that a portion of it will be located on the Residence A side of the zone line, and a portion will extend not more than 30 feet into the highway business side of the zone line. So when we talk about and look at zoning districts, we refer to like a zone that is more restricted and some zones that are less restricted. So in this case, Residence A zone is the zone that's more restricted and highway business is less restricted. So for example, the side yard setback in the Residence A zone is 25 feet versus a side yard setback in the highway business zone is 20 feet. The frontage and area requirements in Residence A are more, in the highway business or less. And additionally, the uses, like in Residence A, it's essentially mainly single family residential, whereas obviously in highway business, there's many more other kinds of uses that are allowed. So Residence A is clearly the more restricted zone. So what we're proposing is that conservatively that the more restricted, the more limiting regulations and be allowed to be applied over the zone line, not more than 30 feet over the zone line, because when in fact actually the opposite would be allowed by the zoning bylaw. The section 200-31 of the zoning bylaw allows a less restricted zone to extend up to 30 feet into a more restricted zone. So like in this case, a commercial use could go up to 30 feet over this zone line to this side of the zone line. So we're actually asking kind of the opposite of that, which is a more conservative and limiting position. This is the section of the bylaw 200-31 has to do with interpretation of district boundaries. And it talks about some different scenarios where like properties are divided by zone lines and that kind of thing. And subsection E is essentially our situation where there's a zone line that divides a lot that already existed. And it talks about there's an allowance that the less restricted use can be extended up to 30 feet over the zone line, and that's what that section allows. So as I mentioned, we're not even proposing that. We're proposing that the more restricted zone be allowed to extend and to straddle the zone line there. So I'm just going to, and so I wanted to just kind of make it clear, we're not requesting any sort of variance, any sort of special permit or relief in that sense, that this lots, the way we're proposing them, will fully conform to zoning as far as dimensional setbacks, the lot areas, the frontage, the yard setbacks. And not only do they conform to highway business, but they conform to the more restrictive zone, Residence A. So for example, we have the 25-foot side yard, over 40 feet front, greater than 40,000 square feet area, and 160 feet of frontage. So I just wanted to switch back to the area map. So in general as well, we feel that a residence at this location, where basically where I have the site label here, is a more appropriate use, just in the sense that you're at this section in North Street, you're kind of exiting the Main Street corridor. There's existing residential homes all across the street. The existing home that will remain on the to the side. And so, in generally speaking, the alternative to what we're proposing would be to try to squeeze a commercial development into this space, which it's a pretty limited area, and mainly based on the wetland, the limitation of the wetlands that cross through the property. It would be difficult, it could be, challenging to fit a viable, like, commercial development in this area, which, some sort of building, parking, stormwater, septic system, and so forth into that space. So in summary, we feel that the zone line drawn in after this lot already existed, and which happens to arbitrarily cross through the property, should not limit or restrict the owner's use of the property simply by the fact that it crosses through, especially when all the dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw can be met, even for the more restricted zoning district which is involved. The owner should be afforded the flexibility to extend the zoning uses and regulations up to 30 feet over the zone line in either direction, as allowed per section 200-31E of the zoning bylaw. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate that overview. And I mean, it's clearly it's a large lot, larger than what's in the surroundings. And it's in a sort of a precarious position, being basically cut in half by the zoning districts. And if it were all resi, I think there'd be no doubt you could subdivide the property and put 2 homes there. I mean, so you've got the setbacks and you've got the area. What I'm concerned about is use, given that a fair portion of this is highway business district, and residential, at least to my knowledge, is not allowed in highway business district. And the section that you refer to, 200-31, which is, it's written one way only, and I don't know anything about the legislative history and why it was drafted as is. But as you say, it gives you the right to extend into the more restrictive zone, but not the right to go the reverse. I don't know why it is drafted that way, but it is. So that's
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's just because it's kind of logically that, it's giving you the allowance to have like a 20-foot, say, side yard and a 25-foot front yard up to 30 feet over the zone line. But if you adhere to the more restrictive regulations, it's kind of inherently that it's conservative, that it's that section to me is giving you relief and allowing the less restricted zone use and regulations to go over the line. It's kind of understood that it would, to me at least, that it would work the other way, because you're being more limiting and conservative in that sense.
I'd like to get some input from my board members on this, because it's definitely, it's a interesting and fairly unique situation to be right, that property going across a district line and trying to put in another use.
If I might, just
Of course.
just some thoughts on this. If you could put that not the proposed for the prop, but the overlay showing the Luke, if you could put up that illustration, the first one that showed the highway business and the residential. So as I look at this, we have the properties on North Street. So just for anybody who might be listening in, where this whole intersection is, if you look at, is basically around the corner from the gas station, and is it China Blossom? And
China,
Cuisine.
China cuisine, right, yeah.
so thank you. And next
Yeah.
to the photography uh, interest. So you have, but across the street from this are in situated in the HB is the two residential properties. So
Yeah.
were they grandfathered? I mean, were they grandfathered in? By the way, just not to, I know I'm kind of scattershot here. The interpretation of the bylaw, and I do agree with Madam Chair that it seems to be written one way. All due respect to the drafters at that time. The supposition that, you know, if it's more restrictive in this way, so we should allow it to be less restrictive in the other way. You know, that is, I don't know if that's an appropriate, again, supposition to make, because in the cases of that, they may have just believed that all the business interests that would be applicable to as being seemingly less restrictive just might have been situated together. So it may not have an applicable, you're this odd property. So
Right, so it's unique for sure.
so the swing one way doesn't necessarily mean that you can just assume that because you're not abridging the more restrictive RA doesn't grant allowance for simply assuming that it's applicable to the less restrictive HB. I mean, you granted you're allowed to make that argument, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, I don't know if it's a fair assumption. But getting back to my question for the board is, there seemingly are properties with dwellings or structures built within the highway business. I'd ask, were they grandfathered in at the time that 231E and its sub were all passed? For example, it would look like 7 and 8 properties, 7 and 9 of Burridge Way.
Yeah.
You know,
That was done
looks
in
like,
the early 2000s. So
right. So what transpired in terms of those properties being permitted? And again, they might have been grandfathered in, and they might have been built or structured on an existing footprint. I mean, that would give me more belief that allowing this is appropriate. But then it kind of goes back to the whole idea is 231 section E exists for, and it does seemingly go in one direction. And I would have to ask, since we is it within our purview to just say it should be allowed to go in the other? Isn't that something that talks about the actual text of the zoning bylaw, and in particular, because if you do read it in its black letter, and while I know we are empowered to allow variances with show, usually the variance isn't a strict interpretation of what otherwise might seem like a vagary within the drafting. But again, I'm just curious if anybody wonders why those other properties that are straddling both of these zones, how did they come into existence? Because effectively, that would be the route that the
My
applicant here would be.
supposition, Bob, would be, they're all on Berridge Way. It looks like was
Sure.
done as a subdivision, so the whole thing would have been permitted and approved as
that would have been
by
definitive,
CPC,
a definitive subdivision. Yeah.
right? So that
And the same thing with North Street then. The other two properties on North, the two, what
yeah,
are described
North
as
Street.
residential.
So, and we don't have the benefit of that history in front of us.
because
Madam
otherwise.
Madam
it would-
Chair, that was my point as well. I see a lot of spots for residential areas here, and I'd like to know why. Right across the street from the site
Mhm.
that Luke is proposing is all residential as well. I'd like to know why those are all residential. I mean, that's kind of what we need to know. And it's with regard to 231. There has to be an explanation one way or the other. I'm not sold either way, what this is supposed to mean. I can't tell by just reading something what that interpretation is supposed to mean, but there must be a way that we can find out specifically if we can go the other way with that as well. So
And this
that's my
might be
position.
one that we refer over to town council to give us an opinion on whether we can interpret this. Both to go both to the more restrictive and to the less restrictive, which would give, rather than us just making a call on it.
Yeah, there might be
I-
case law on it or something.
Well, the other thing is, I think we owe the applicant every available basis upon which to confidently and appropriately, agree. And in which case, if town council were to render an opinion that that it is applicable, then I'm not even sure there is a need to approach us, because as the applicant pointed out, everything about the proposed structure falls within the standard, it would appear, I mean, I'm just saying this in terms of this statement, it would appear falls within the zoning guidelines, bylaws, etc. So
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Bob, that it would be, as I said, I think if it were all residential, this would not be it would not.
No,
take something
It
Luke,
more.
wouldn't be, yeah.
Luke, you had mentioned that if it were to go commercial, there would be some issues with the wetlands. Have you noticed any issues that might arise in regards to going residential? Have you looked at as far as like setbacks and any conservation issues that might arise, or
Yeah, so we've surveyed, we had a delineation done on the wetlands, and that's surveyed in on the plan that was submitted. Where residential is a much less intense use, it's reasonable to fit a home in a septic system in a basic driveway yard area. Based on our review, that would be feasible and reasonable to permit with conservation and the setbacks that they adhere to for no disturb buffer and distance from the septic system and so forth. But my point I was making was that, like with a commercial development, there's other requirements, like for example with parking and in the land area, just with facilities and things that are an additional to a residence that would be required, that could be a tight fit, because the wetland boundary is limiting as far as that available or usable upland area that we could use for that purpose.
thank you.
yeah, I don't think North Reading needs another single chair barber shop or salon, because that's about all you look like you could fit in there for a business purpose.
I did see, I think we have some neighbors, some abutters here. If there's anyone from any of our butters who would like to raise any questions,
I'm on 3 Barrage Way. So
if you could give your name for the record, please.
Brian Petralia.
Okay, hello, Mr. Petrelli.
Should I leave my screen up?
So I think I'm on so I'm 3 Barrage Way, so right where next to 64, I think is where my house would be, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
I
the
believe
street
you.
address.
So when we tried putting in a shed, we had to get a permit to do it, and we couldn't build within a certain amount of feet from the wetland. So how would from my understanding is the wetland goes all the way back. So how would a commercial or residential spot be able to be built there if we couldn't even put like a shed there?
So they would have to meet the wetland setbacks and get approval from the, from our Conservation Commission for any location within 100 feet of the wetland delineation. And Luke, do you have, I don't know if you haven't indicated the 100-foot.
Yeah, we would definitely be on the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. The 100-foot buffer would come, up like through this area. It's not delineated on here, but yeah, so we would have to file a notice of intent. We would have to notify abutters. That would be a permit that would be required, but based on the information that we have, I don't see any issue with that, as far as that would obviously be a process and a review that we would have to go through, but we'd have to adhere to the setbacks and the distances. If this whole area was wetlands, that would be another matter and it may not be feasible, but based on the delineation done by a wetland scientist and mapped out based on DEP requirements, there's a good usable area here for a home.
And would any of that go on to would any of that go on to my property lot, like my property or no? Like
Your property is up in this area right here.
Oh, okay.
There's 3 Ryan, right?
Yeah, those are the old owners. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Your property's here. There's an existing house here, so what we're talking about would be on the other side of the existing house, closer to Main Street.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I would just, I'm obviously not an expert with all this stuff, so I was just curious where it would be and how that would affect.
No, that's absolutely why we have these public hearings, so people can take a look at the plans and have a chance to ask their questions and get, have input on the process.
Yeah, I just have two young daughters, so I was just curious about the construction with, obviously sleep and all that stuff, privacy, things like that, but I don't know if it's applicable to what this is for, so.
Thank you. No, I appreciate your input. We have Richard, Mary Lasden, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I had 2 questions.
Could you
The
just,
first is,
Just,
can you go
give your
back to that
address for
picture?
the record.
Mary Lasden, 185 North
Thank
Street.
you so much.
Could we go back to the previous picture?
Yeah.
So is the frontage 160 feet or approximately 160?
160 feet total. Yep.
Okay, what's the 146.56?
That's up to an angle point, and then 1340. The street line angles, and when you add the 13.44, that's the total of 160.
Okay, thank you. And then the house, the dwelling will not be any larger than 40 by 40, is that correct?
That's what we're proposing. We provided a house design with the submittal that fits within that 40 by 40 envelope.
Okay, but it could be larger then.
At this point in time, that's what we're proposing. I don't know of any plans to make it larger at this time.
Thank you.
So any house plans would have to be reviewed and by the building inspector, and if they were not going to be able to meet any of the setbacks, they would need to come in front of us again for relief on that.
Thank
So
you.
they can't expand beyond the minimum required setbacks. Let's see, anyone else from public?
Is there anything to, obviously when we bought the house, I moved in 2020, and the realtor said that no one would be able to build behind us. Is that did we just get kind of essentially conned by the realtor, or is there any merit to that, or?
I would just say what they're referring to is just the fact that this whole area behind you in this directly behind you is wet and you wouldn't be able to build a house in this area, if I had to guess. But as I said, we're several hundred feet to the west, northwest of your rear property line.
And if the project were to go forward, I would assume that the existing trees, et cetera, that already exist towards the, let's just call it the wetlands area of where you've proposed to build would probably remain in place, giving those neighbors or Berridge Way residents some
Buffer, visual buffer.
some fill between the two properties.
Yeah, that's
or-
right. And certainly if they're in the wetlands, we wouldn't be allowed to remove the trees, so. But that area isn't proposed to be altered.
May I jump in, please? I'm the applicant, Carmen Petrosino.
Mr. Petrosino.
Thank you.
please.
Thank you. I just want to mention that we feel that residential is definitely the way to go for this piece of property for a number of reasons. A lot of residential around it, and doing residential, we basically have the footprint of the house, the driveway to lead to it. Probably septic would end up out front, and then we would be able to leave a lot more of the trees up in the backyard as much as we can. And it would be a lot less of the land area would be constructed on. As if we had to go commercial, which would be the next step if we don't go residential, there's parking area, there's driveway parking area, you know, stuff like that. So it's a lot less will be disturbed. Obviously, no matter what we do, we'll have to stay within the setbacks of the sideline, front line, and the wetlands. But we'll take up a lot less room and do a lot less disturbance with the residential than we would with the commercial. There's no question about that. It's preferable to go residential there, and for the wetlands, for the area, for the neighborhood, and that's why we're proposing that.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And it's, as we said, it's always tricky, right, when you're right on the edge of a district line. So, but I think from what we're hearing, I mean, I think we've gotten a lot of good input from your engineer and from you, as well as from the concerns from the neighbors. I think at this point, it might make sense for us to run this by town council, just to try to get some
Clarification.
what?
Clarification.
Some clarification on a provision of our zoning bylaws, which is written a little bit oddly. I will acknowledge, but to try to get the comfort that you can take the more restrictive use into the highway business, or if there's something that we're not necessarily aware of that would preclude that from being allowed. But I wouldn't want to send you away without trying to vet that out for you. So I think at this point, I would suggest that we continue, that you request a continuance until our next meeting, which is May 11th, I believe we just established. And that will give us time to discuss this with our esteemed colleagues and see if we can help resolve this.
Before we do that, can I ask one question, please?
Of course you may.
So having the frontage and having the square footage, whether it's residence or commercial, is there any way that you could see that you would have to tell me I can't do anything there? In other words, is it because of the zoning line possible that I'm not able to build at all there?
It's the zoning line that we are trying to work with, because you do have 160 feet of frontage, which is the minimum required for residential, and it's more than the minimum for commercial, which again, that's odd to me, but that's how our zoning bylaws are drafted. I think wetlands is going to be one of your bigger concerns, but as you said, you can try to work through Concom with that.
So if the question being asked, Mr. Petrosino, is not once this issue is resolved, are you asking if the board would have any problems with the plan as proposed so far?
Or one or the other. In other words, is it possible?
Well, my guess is that the answer from town council will basically resolve the issue either way, because it's just this, you're building on an odd, you're the odd lot, and that's not I don't know that that's the most descriptive way, but it's the only one that I can gather. And I think their answer will very likely resolve the issue
Right.
clear and easy. After that, then and by the way, their answer, the reply might give direction in the event that they say what the
Let's not,
current,
maybe we
yeah.
don't, let's not,
Yeah.
well, we'll see what they
Yeah.
say. We can't suppose.
Thank you.
But
I'm assuming so they'll be given like the copy of our like submittal, I
I'll
would
give
assume.
your whole submittal, I'll get them on the phone, have a chat with
Okay.
them.
I did want to just point out, I don't know, it was a little bit confusing, but the building commissioners, I guess denial of this, and that's what we're appealing. He referenced a section of the bylaw 200-7 having to do with mixed uses, which was a little bit confusing to us, and because that section of the bylaw has to do with like multiple or different uses on the same legal property, which in this case, we're clearly proposing only one single use of residential. So I noted that in my letter, but I thought it was worth at least mentioning it.
Thank
for the
you.
record.
Thank you, Luke. Noted. That is
Yep.
done. All right. Sherry, I do see that you're here before we see if before we ask again for an request for an extension. Is there anything that you would like to add or that you can add to this discussion?
No, the only thing I'd like to, well, I guess, yes, I should say. The only thing I'd like to add is what Luke just said. I vetted this through CPC. I also vetted it through the town planner. And they were both in agreement with me. And it's the reason why I decided I would rather have the zoning board of appeals make that decision instead of it just being me. And once again, CPC and town planner both agree with me.
Thank you, Jerry. And I will have a conversation with town planner as well, just want to make sure that we get all the input, so we can try to advance this. So one last chance, if you would like to ask for a continuation until May.
Leave that to Mr. Petrosino.
But yes, please, if we could have a continuation to the next meeting, please.
Thank you. I think we would be happy to grant that. The next meeting is May 11th for your calendar. Is that right, Kathy? Am I saying the right dates?
Yes, May 11th.
May 11th, thank you. All right. So we're continuing at the applicant's request, continuing this hearing until May 11th. At this point, I am going to hand over the chair to Mr. Breen, who will close out this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Madam Chair.
my pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Roy.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy, Mr. Petrosino. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
So for the next matter regarding the agenda, is the application for 2 Summer Street by Mr. Harold Bueso. Is Mr. Bueso here with us?
Yes,
Okay.
he's muted. Hold on.
Sorry.
Okay, okay.
Hi.
Yes,
good
good
evening.
evening, Mr. Wick. Hi.
Give me a moment. I'll read the hearing notice. A virtual public hearing will be held on Thursday, April 13th, 2023 at 7 PM on the petition of Harold F. Bueso, 2 Summer Street, North Reading, Massachusetts, map 4, parcel 50 for a home occupation special permit for his painting business per Article 200-42 North Reading zoning bylaws. Good evening, Mr. Bueso. Before you begin, Kathy, notices went out to on the matter, everything returned without any condition.
Yes,
Thank you. So Mr. Bueso, why you've got a moment? Could you tell the board what your permit application is regarding to, in particular, the painting business?
Well, yes, I don't know if you can hear me, but I just moved to the city. And I'm asking to get the home improvement certificate for my business doing painting. And that's what I need.
So, so currently, 2 Summer Street, tell us more about the business itself, or how many employees, are you a solo? What's the focus of the business? What's the activity?
Yeah, I'm a solo employee right now. Sometimes I ask for help, and maybe I can bring one guy with me. And pretty much I'm doing residential, exterior work, and inside work too. Nothing major. It's just small works. That's what I do.
And what business will be conducted out of 2 Summer Street? In other words, is it just that's where you live, that's where you're gonna have your truck supplies just kept basically on a driveway or in a garage, and then you just leave in the morning and come back at the end of the day? Or is there going to be business done other than keeping the books in and out of the house, that kind of thing, activity?
Well, yeah, that's what I need. Just I leave in the morning and come back in the afternoon, and just to park my my truck, my work van.
And is it just a single van?
Yes.
And we always try to ask, is there any display written on the van, or is it other than just the name of your painting business, or there's no other signage on the property for your
Yes, no
painting
logo.
business?
My van doesn't have any logo yet.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much I'm a subcontractor, and the companies asked me for had no logo on my van.
Got it. And my last question, so all of your job is as a subcontractor, so all the job assignments you're getting are just made
Pretty
by
much.
contractors? You're not dealing with the general public, you're just dealing with contractors?
Correct. Yeah. Pretty much I
Okay.
always been a subcontractor.
Okay, so effectively the business is all, the actual business is all being done away from 2 Summer Street. All 2
Correct.
Summer Street is where your supply truck is going to be a van is going to be located, and maybe where you get mail. There's not going to be, you expecting any supply deliveries there? Paint supplies, or do you just, is everything go to the job site?
Everything goes to the job site.
Okay,
Pretty much I pick up the paint at the paint store, and I don't ask for delivery at my house.
okay. Does any of the other board members have any questions regarding Mr. Bueso and the application here?
I don't.
I don't, I mean, there's no other equipment other than your van that would be at your house. You don't have any lifts or heavy equipment.
No,
Yeah, that'll all be at the job site.
just my ladders on top of my van.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And while we're here in the public hearing, is there any neighbors, abutters, people from the Summer Street area that are joining us tonight that might have any questions for Mr. Bueso or want to voice any concerns regarding his application?
I am Stephen Conrad. I live right next door at 4 Summer Street. I've been here for 40 years, and I have absolutely no problem with Mr. Bueso. He's been a good neighbor since he moved in. And like I said, no problems whatsoever. So I have no issue with him whatsoever.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conrad, for your participation. Thank you. Much appreciated. Is there anybody else or anything else? If there isn't, I'd like to move to close the public hearing. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Does any, with close the public hearing, does anybody have, is there any discussion from the present board members regarding the application?
No.
Not for me, no.
All right, great. Thank you. With that, I'd like to close the matter. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor of closing the discussion and hearing, say aye.
I'm Maria Lockhart.
Hi, Brendan Riley.
Aye, Bob Breen. Would anybody like to make a motion with regard to the application? I do make reference that Kathy Morgan provided some two versions of a draft for the grant or denial of the permit. If anybody would like to offer, if available.
Sure.
I don't have the paper. I'm sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
That's quite all right. I understand.
Brendan Riley, move to grant a special permit to the petitioner, Harold Bueso, for a home occupation painting business at his residence located at 2 Summer Street, North Reading, map 4, parcel 50, according to the standard conditions. 1, no person other than the residential occupants shall be employed therein. 2, no more than 300 square feet shall be devoted to such use. And there shall be no display of goods, wares, or signs related to the home occupation visible from the exterior. The special permit for home occupation runs with the applicant and is no way transferable. There will be no customers coming to the premise. Lastly, the special permit shall be valid for 4 years.
Can I get a second on the motion?
I, Maria Lockhart, second the motion.
Thank you, Maria. With that, I'd like to call the question for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I, Maria Lockhart.
Aye, Bob Breen. So noted in passing. With that, Mr. Bueso, the petition has been granted, and as such, as recited just a moment ago, the special permit for home occupation use as described will be permitted. Kathy, what's is it 30 days? The window?
Once the decision is stamped in with the town clerk, there is a 20-day appeal
Sure.
period. And after that, you can come in and get your special permit.
So effectively,
business.
Mr. Bueso, in 20 days, give or take, you can go to the town hall and get a certified copy of the stamped copy of the permit, which should fulfill whatever I can imagine the business needs you have for it with regard to the contractors and or insurance carriers that might be looking for that. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Uh,
Thank you for making the application.
Sure.
Good luck with your business.
Thank you.
Since there was no meeting for the month of March, there's no minutes to being brought forward tonight. Is there any new business?
There's minutes from February, Bob.
Okay, sorry, thank you. I'm glad you reminded me. I did take a read of them. I was just
Yeah, it
So-
was a little while ago.
that. And thank you for getting the packet out so timely. It was a big help. So with regard to that meeting, what's interesting is that it was Michelle, Jennifer, and I, and the standard practices is the parties who were attending to the meeting are the ones that are supposed to approve the minutes for that purpose. So I, as chair at this moment, I'm going to put the passage of the minutes over for a.
Right.
unti-
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I will say I am here. I'm just lurking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've been off camera, but I am available. So I did review the minutes, but happy to wait for Jennifer if we want all three.
Well, I know Jennifer was okay with them, but that conversation, when I noticed her to that I was going to be coming to the meeting, but Michelle, you were on meeting earlier when the May 11th, our next meeting date was set. Are you more likely going to be available on that day?
Yeah, I'm there. Sorry, and I have been lurking the entire time.
All right. Refresh me if I'm wrong, Kath. Is the usual practice to have the 3 members, or is it just sufficient to have one?
I think if everyone reads them and I think if you have a majority with the two of you, with you and Michelle, I think it would be fine. But if you want to hold off, that's fine too.
No, I'm actually, I'm quite sure that if there was something, Chairman Platt would have raised it. So at this time, I'm gonna make a motion upon review of the minutes. Actually, Michelle, if you might, if you found them to be representative of the meeting that was conducted again on February 16th, a motion to approve. I think we can carry that through.
Sure. I, Michelle Bodian, move to approve the minutes from February 16th, 2023.
And Bob Breen, having attended that meeting, I would like to second that motion. That being said, the current voting members, if there's no objection, I'd like to call the matter to a vote.
I, Maria Lockhart, vote to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I, Brendan Riley, vote to approve the meeting minutes.
And Bob Breen, I vote aye. Thank you. So close that matter. I know it's late, and I can only imagine. I haven't. I want to make sure that Member Lockhart gets inside from her unique vantage point for the meeting tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you. At this time,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to bring a motion to close the meeting.
I second
And I
that
just-
motion. Sorry.
No, thank you. All in favor of concluding the meeting as conducted tonight?
I, Brendan Riley, vote to conclude the meeting.
Thank you, Brendan. Bob Breen, aye.
Maria Lockhart, aye.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, as always, Kathy and Jerry, if you're still on the call. Thank you as well. That concludes our business for tonight. May 11th, next meeting. Everybody have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for your help tonight.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Rob.
I
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.